Dan Olmsted. I'm going to talk today about how to create specimen labels for insect collections using Microsoft Excel and a mail merge function with custom labels in Microsoft Word. This is a real time saver if you've got a large collection or you're really in a time crunch. Sometimes in the past I've written out labels and it strains my eyes and it hurts my hands after a couple hundred, and so this is just an easy way to get around that and really make those your collection pop. So to start with, what you want to do is create a list of your specimens with any pertinent information. So I've got an Excel spreadsheet here with a number of columns. The first is scientific name. For those interested, I'm using Striatocosta albicosta, which is the western Maine cutworm. Other fields that I want to include in my labels, and you create a column for each field that you're interested in. The sex of the specimen, the date collected, where I collected it, my name, or whoever the collector's name is, along with if you have your own collection system or you're at a university and want to contribute. Um, I've added just a column of some arbitrary unique identifiers to illustrate how well this approach works. So once you have all of your information in an Excel spreadsheet, make sure you save it somewhere that you'll remember, and then you can close out of that. The next thing you want to do is go to Microsoft Word. And in this case, I'm on a MacBook Pro, so I'm using Office 2016 for Mac, and it's going to look a little bit different from Microsoft Word in Windows, but you should have all of the same functionality. If you, for some reason you can't find something I'm referring to, just Google it, and I think there's a lot of YouTube videos and resources out there to help you get along. So at any rate, to start your labels, what you want to do is find the mailings option. And so in this setup, it's just a tab here at the top. And then you want to go to Start Mail Merge. And I'll say that, at least on a Mac, if you expand and reduce your window size, all these options collapse. So if you don't see what I'm referring to right away, expand things out. Make sure that all of the icons have an opportunity to expand. So go to Start Mail Merge and then select Labels, and it'll bring you to this dialog box. So you'll see that most of these are standard label specs that come pre-installed with Office, and this is if you want to print mailing labels or return addresses and go to Staples or something like that. It matches up all these numbers, but what we actually want to do is create a unique label. And you'll see here that I've already started this, and so to give you an illustration of how this is set up, however, you'll click on New Label, and then it'll take you to this window. I have a screenshot of what all the presets are for what I'm using, and so I'll leave this up and just walk through this to give you a chance to write down the information and figure out exactly what it is that I'm doing. So start by giving it a unique name, specimen label 2 in this case, and then you want to have all of these settings exactly the same. And so in this case, because I'm starting something new but I've already created this, everything's entered. But to explain what these are, top margin is just the space between the top edge and the bottom edge and where your labels start or end. Side margin is similar except it goes horizontally. Label height is the physical height of this label, as well as label width. It's the physical width. Vertical pitch refers to the distance between the center line of this label and the center line of the second label. And then again, similarly, horizontal pitch, it's the center line going this way to the center line of the next one. And then finally, I've already worked this out that if you put in 10 across and 20 down, everything fits well as long as everything else is the same. And then you want 8.5 by 11 letter size. The type of paper you use is really it's an individual preference. I know a lot of folks in entomology like to use archival paper that's resistant to fading, but again, it's really up to you. So once you have these settings in, you'll hit OK. In this case, I'll hit cancel because I've already got something set up, but you'll hit OK. And then you'll see that your new custom label shows up in the options. So once you have that selected, you're just going to hit OK. And you're going to see that it puts a blank matrix into this document. So what we want to do next is actually start adding fields from the Excel spreadsheet that we just created. So to do that, you're going to go to Select Recipients. We're not really working with recipients, we're working with specimens, but just ignore that fact. Go to Use Existing List, and then you're going to navigate to wherever you saved it, and you're going to choose this. Now, for some reason on my Mac, there's going to be some squirreliness happening with pop-up windows. Just ignore that. We can still get everything done, but just in case you're wondering, don't get distracted. So you'll click OK on that. This is what I was talking about. I'm just going to click through these until you get to this. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to select a cell range. Just click OK. And now you get to this really neat dialog box. This is where you can start entering your fields with custom information that will be dynamic from one label to the next. So if you click this drop down, we'll start with scientific name, and anything in brackets is going to be a placeholder, which means that it's going to insert information from a given record within your Excel sheet, and it's going to add it in here. You can also add straight text. So if I were to add this in, that text that I just typed would show up on every record. So we don't want that, but I was just illustrating an example. But what I do want is maybe a comma after the scientific name, and then I think I want the sex of that specimen as well. So then you would hit enter, so that physically starts a new line within your label, and then we'll add these other things. So I want collection date, I want location, I want my name or whoever the collector is for a given specimen, and then I want to add that unique collection ID. And again, see, I just added a little static text there. But what we do next, you just click OK and watch what happens. So now this record has been updated, or this document has been updated, and it says for each label, I'm going to add this particular information. Now, the first thing I notice here is that the formatting of the text is way too big, and so if we just select everything in that table, you can go to wherever you change these options for font. I like to work with Arial, but some people like to use a serif font like Times New Roman. It's totally up to you. I actually just manually type in 4 because the drop-down list doesn't go that far, but if you choose font size 4, you'll see that everything starts to fit within each of these labels. So zooming in real quick here, you'll see, okay, so now I know generally that works. This is the fun part. So if assuming everything is ready to go, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. So one of the things you want to make sure you do is you italicize the species name, and so this would be the point at which you do that. So if you just go to the first label cell and change it to look however you want, I'm going to italicize the species name and then maybe just bold this entire first name, and then go back to mailings and hit update labels. You'll see that it's going to update that generic formatting for every single record on this sheet. So once you do that, this is the fun part. So if you remember, we've got maybe 20 or 25 specimen records. If you go over here to preview results, it's going to fill in this information. And so now we have a unique label for each one of those specimen records. It's got the species name with the sex, it's got the collection date, it's got the unique identifier, and it's got the collector name. And so that's really all there is to this. If you want to print this record as it is, you can go over here to Finish and Merge. You can go here to print the document, or you can go to edit individual documents. If you've got everything set up, you really shouldn't have to do anything else. And so if you go in here, for example, I'll just show you, it creates a new document. It's got it has all of that background placeholder information removed, and this is just a straight up file which you can print. everything's formatted well, and that's really all there is to the process. You can do this with 10 specimens, you can do this with thousands of specimens. This process encompasses all shapes and sizes of this sort of thing. So with that, thank you very much, and I hope this was helpful.